Good evening and welcome to another Monday Night Live. I am back, as you will have noticed, and Simon,
very grateful.
Yeah, Simon has a wingman. An exciting couple of weeks coming up with the Scottish Open this week and the Open Championship, the final major of the year in July. Doesn't feel right, does it?
Still not used to it.
No, neither am I.
Well, barely past the longest day and the season's done.
I know. But we've got the Ryder Cup, we've got the FedEx Cup playoffs, so there's lots of golf to come. Yeah, Wentworth the PGA Championship, which is just round the corner from us here at Precision Golf in West Byfleet in Surrey. As usual, we'll be taking all of your questions. We've got the two laptops or iPads standing by for all of those questions, and they're coming in already. How's the summer going so far for you? Obviously, good, back on that. Simon lost in the playoff at the club champs yesterday. Yeah,
it was a recovery job rather than the other way around. At least I went from not great Saturday to good yesterday, and then birdie beat me, so fair enough. And
what's happening in the world of PG with the golf equipment?
It's about to ramp up with new Titleist and Ping product. So the new Titleist irons, we will have them to fit from the 10th. From the second half this week. Actually, there are a couple of boxes in the workshop that need attending to, and then Ping will be shortly after as well. So that gets sort of fun, some new product in.
Any surprises to come from those guys?
No. I think their products have been really good, and they're both brands that kind of build out on things that have worked before. So they're not going to just radically change something for the sake of it. There's a new driving iron and a replacement of the i230 from Ping. And then Titleist the whole iron series. So yeah, some good stuff though.
So the iron series is a complete update, as it were. Well.
Yeah, other than the blade, the MB and the CB stay, because there's no tech in those, so there's nothing. They've done a limited edition 680 MB. So back to when we were playing those heads, but otherwise, there's no tech in those. There's nothing to improve upon. It's just a single piece forged head. Whereas the T100, 150. The 250's taken over from the 200 and the 350, and then the driving irons, they've all got updated tech.
So if you're a Titleist fanboy, it's some nice clubs coming out.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about them in about 3 days.
Oh, fantastic.
But they are nice. But
you can see them all over the internet, no problem. Okay, well, let's crack on in to the questions. As usual, we're here every Monday. Some of us are, some of us aren't, but I try to be here as much as I can.
Quick shout out for Lottie Wode.
Oh, yes.
A 6-shot victory. As an amateur.
Very good.
I mean, backing up the Augusta win, but I mean, just to go into that last round and not come back to them, still short of 4 under last round. Very impressive, very proud of her.
Very much so.
Very good.
Ian Murgatroyd, evening gents, evening. A picker with my irons. I barely graze the grass. I should be wary of the extra bounce of an i230 over the low bounce of, say, a Pro 243 ? Thank you very much.
Well, not definitely. I mean, in theory, yes. You could say, well, you don't want to go too high a bounce, but you could be a picker and deliver shaft lean and therefore need the bounce. So it's not as definite as that. But in principle, kind of a wider sole or a heavier bounce, if you're someone who doesn't get into the turf much, in theory, isn't going to work as well for you.
Yeah, you can be a picker and hit a low ball flight, and you can be a picker and hit it high. So it just depends on how you deliver. MY, hi gents, can you compare the new Modus 11 or the 110 to the DG Mid T15?
Nippon haven't actually sent us the samples of the 110s yet, so I'd love to, but we can't yet, I'm afraid.
Okay, fair dues. Golf Nerd 3. How does iron sole design matter if the ideal contact is ball first anyway? For example, have you found the Switzerland sole to just not agree with a player?
It's a very fair point. Yeah, we would always say, you're ideally making contact with the ball first. However, if you are someone who, to follow on from Ian Murgatroyd's question, if you are someone who delivers strong shaft lean and gets a little bit steeper on it, then something with a kind of a killed front edge with a softer front edge isn't going to get into the turf quite as quick. There's the odd person that the heads just aren't going to get on with no matter what head they are, and strike point, some heads are just better off certain parts of the face. I've not seen, I mean, the Strix irons have a little bit of a progression on the sole, but it's not that much that you can't get the centre of mass into the bottom of the ball. It's not like a heavy bounce wedge where the back edge just really catches. So it's less of an issue on those than you might think. I've not seen it get in the way of someone getting ball strike, no.
Very good, very good. Slalom Dude 68. I'm assuming you're a bit of a skier. Any feedback on the newly released Callaway XForgged? The sole looks very similar to the Srixon V-sole.
So well, there is the sort of the limited run iron that they're launching, which is an XForgged, which I'm assuming it's that one, and not there is another iron launching soon as well in the AI range. I haven't seen. I've seen a set of them in the past. There is a little bit more of a beveled leading edge, but it's not quite as aggressive. If it's the iron I'm thinking of, that the Højgaards are using, a lot of the tour players are using, the Japanese forged one, it's not as aggressive as the Srixon sole, but the front edge, any kind of angling on the front edge just means you've got a bit more versatility to it. So I think it's a good thing.
Further to my 7-iron, or further to my 7-wood rather, to the moon question last week, I tried a Mate's AI Smoke with a stiff AV Blue 65 rather than the regular I usually use. Flight was good, shaft to blame or the head?
If it's just a stiff versus the reg, it won't be the shaft making that much difference. So I'm trying to remember what head it was last week that we were talking about, but it's the AI Smoke was pretty good for spin, so it might not be as spinny as one of the other heads you were testing. But the shaft, just the regular to the stiff, isn't going to make a really noticeable change to ball flight. It might bring it down a little bit. So it could be a combination of both, but I can't remember the head you were using last week.
Papa B, hello young men. Is a pre-worn leading edge or a V-sole better for divot takers, or are they the same? For some reason I really struggle with wider soles, so I think I need a thin sole with some help.
I think the V-sole of the Srixon provides more bounce for the front half of the sole, but a pre-worn leading edge just means it's not a sharp edge going in. So still protects a little bit, but the Srixon will give you a bit more protection if you want to stop getting into the turf, but not a wide sole.
Very good.
I think that made sense.
There you go. Philly Central, having watched numerous fitting vids, I've never seen a result of the P770s, which is unfortunate as that's what I've got. Have I picked up a set of lemons?
Not at all. It may just be that, so what the 770s do, well, I've got a 774 iron, which I went to because I pick it a bit more at the 4 iron and I wanted extra height. So they are a genuinely really nice head. It just so happens that those who've been in the fittings haven't been the best option for them, or they've wanted a softer sound or feel, but they are a good head. They tend to be really good if you pick the ball.
Very good. Macca, hi both. This one's for Stuart. Why is it so important to have the club head outside the hands on takeaway? Well, this is a very good question. Nice question, nice question. Well, in the PGA manual, when I turned professional in 1992, the first
you must have been
checkpoint-
young.
Sorry?
You must have been young.
I was. It was all in the PGA manual. That is why it's probably the most widely advised position in the book, but I think there are a few that maybe know why it's that way. Ultimately, when the club head stays low to the floor, when we take the club away, the shaft pitch becomes very shallow, laid down, and as a golfer, you end up not feeling like you've got any angle of attack, because effectively that golf club's going to feel like it's going to try and swing above the ball. So when the club shaft or the club head gets underneath the grip rather than the club head out in front of the hands and swinging over the grip, when it swings over the grip, you feel like you've got more angle of attack down. When the club head swings under the grip, it feels like you've got no angle of attack. So that takeaway will give golfers in general more angle of attack down and more opportunity to strike ball and potentially turf afterwards, just depends. But equally, you can still hit it fat from there, just depends on what else is going on. But it was the most laboured point in the PGA manual, the most laboured point when he came to the exam process as a PGA golf coach. So I would think that that's one of the reasons why it gets talked about so commonly. And to be honest, when you switch on the TV and you listen to golfers being coached, I'll tell you an anecdote in a moment, they're always talking about fundamentals, grip, setup, posture. the reality is when you're working with someone that's really good, a tour player, if their posture and setup is out and they're working with a golfer that's known their game for a long amount of time, tweaking that can do wonders. Getting involved with movement is a really, really poison chalice. You can start to unravel golf swings very, very quickly if you start taking a golfer off the beaten path. And we've seen that over the years. The golfer loses his way, then starts picking at his golf swing, and before you know it, he's never to be seen again. I'm slightly digressing here, but that takeaway is always the easiest checkpoint for a golfer to start to work on. Fix that, a lot of good things happen. That's why it's talked about. That's why it's changed so much. And I remember I was working at the BMW PGA Championship. And I was working with a guy called Steve Webster, and Graham McDowell was standing there, and it was going around the range that Graham McDowell was working with Pete Cowan at the time. And he employed a golf coach that's not too far from here. And he said, I've got X coming down because I want to work on my basics. I want to work on how I grip it, how I stand to it. And it was like everyone was saying, well, is Pete Cowan not work on your grip and posture and stuff like that? I think if you've got someone that knows your game and someone that knows your grip, how you stand to it, that this particular golf coach had with Graham, it goes a long way to making you play really great golf. And I just think that this club head outside your hands on the takeaway has a lot of remedies to a lot of things, but also I believe it was because the PGA manual lent on it so heavily in most golf coaches' life. I don't know what the PGA manual looks like these days because it's been a long while since I've been under training, but I think that takeaway is talked about so much because that's how you get the swing started, and that can lead on to a lot of positives and negatives. So I've sort of rambled on there a little bit, but hopefully that was useful. We've got some more questions come in. Paul M. Hi both, great show as always. Thank you so much, Paul. Have either of you hit the new Wilson Dynapower carbon fairways? Any feedback, as they're a great price point?
Yeah, the carbon fairway's not that dissimilar to the TaylorMade. It's not quite as forgiving, but the carbon one is quite a strong flight. So not quite so good low on the face as the TaylorMade, but actually not massively dissimilar on flight once you get it away. I think the Wilsons are a little bit less of a price point. They're not quite as low a price point as a lot of people have kind of seemed to think. But they are a solid product, and Wilson are definitely much improved the last couple of years.
Heading over to my channel, Job to Journey, good old Peter Cantor. Welcome back, Stu. Thanks, Peter. Question for Simon. Playing say T150, but needing help with 4-iron. There are 6 choices: T200, T200 Utility, U505, and 3 hybrid heads. 3 hybrid heads. How to choose? Can you hit a few?
I'll grab a few and I'll come back. I'll talk about it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Gary Satterfield is on. Always get nervous. Hey guys, welcome back. Thank you, Gary. Should I worry about the rattle I hear in a few of my Strixon iron graphite shafts?
Oh, sorry, I was looking ahead. It's unlikely to be something that's going to affect performance, but it's really annoying, so get it dealt with. It should be pretty simple to sort out. Yeah,
great. Papa B, Stuart, if I wasn't so far away, I'd kiss you. Your tip on how to handle short chips has been a game changer. Anyone not subscribing to these boys' YouTube channels is throwing away strokes. Well, that's really kind of you to say, and I'm super glad that helped out. I've got a massive edit going on at the moment for a video that I shot yesterday, Sunday. Yes, Monday today. It's going to be huge, so go check that out. It should drop tomorrow or Wednesday. Just depends on how many hours that I can fit into this edit, but it's going to talk about the different circles the grip makes and the head makes, and the impact. In fact, the impact on that takeaway of the club head outside the handle. It will maybe change your perspective on how you see the golf swing. It'll be really insightful, so go check that out. So we've got the clubs, got the heads.
A few bits and bobs. So there are a few factors in it. One is what shot are you wanted the club for. So there's forgiveness levels that you get, as you go from in tightness range, the T200 to the U505 to the GT3 to the GT2, the GT1. The utility versus the standard T200, it's a slightly weaker loft, but it's also designed to have a graphite shaft as well. It's different head weight. So they're kind of the same thing. But yeah, it's what pitch or flight, what job role do I want to do? Ultimately, that's in this bit of the bag, you're trying to kind of say, right, what ball flight job am I wanting from this club? So I'm going to hit a few of them and see the different pitches of flights. I'm going to aim at a different location.
Very good.
But yeah, there's no absolute like kind of one size fits all best job. So start off with the GT3 hybrid. This smaller head designed for realistically a better iron player who wants to retain a bit of spin, more forgiveness than a long iron. So with this one, it allows me to squeeze it a little bit more, but this head isn't designed to take a load of spin off, but it's not designed to whack it right up in the air. So, actually I healed it a bit, but so 5,000 spin, but on a fairly strong launch. I'm going to change the tiles. I'm just going to add launch angle onto that because I think that's going to be an important one. We don't need curve. Launch angle there. So 13.8 launch, healed it a bit, so spun, but not high launch, but keeps some spin. So that's one job role. Actually, I'll leave that on the hybrid. So the next one is I want it moon ball. So I'm going to put the GT1 hybrid on.
With the summer being here, Open Championship, Scottish Open this week.
Yeah.
Although it doesn't necessarily always sort of convert to Open Championship golf. Yeah. What might we see in some of the players' bags?
Yeah, I think well, the interesting one this year is Portrush is a slightly different course to the others, and a lot of normally on links you're going to see a lot of driving irons in play. Winds up, you don't want loads of spin, you don't want it kind of it's not like they're not going to pick 9 woods in the bag like they do at the US Open. Yes, there's thick rough, but you've got the conditions that mean once that spin kicks up, the wind just bats it around for fun. So it's more a kind of club to be, if you get the wind up, it keeps the spin down, you can hit it through the wind, you can control the flight. So we're going to see a lot more of those sort of 2-iron, 3-iron, driving iron style clubs. The difference with Portrush is the greens are sat up a little bit more, and it's going to be softer. It's in Ireland, their record temperature is 25 degrees. I think someone said the other day. It's not been baked out like it has here. Saw a photo of a client whose friend's a member, and it's still pretty green. So it's not going to be that flat bullet flight they'll be looking for, say, at Troon last year with the conditions they had. So might see a few more hybrids in play, maybe more like that one where they want a bit of spin to control when they get the green, but not just a flat cannon.
And what might we see with wedge changes of players? Might there be any sole differences of grinds of clubs that players would convert to?
Yeah, you'd often see on the lob wedge, you'd often see them go a shallower grind for firmer, tighter turf. Now, it is a bit firmer and tighter than the US turf, but this year less difference, I think, than you'd ordinarily see. I think at, let's say, when's been the most recent really kind of burned out Open? Haven't had many recently, actually.
No, there hasn't. It's been wet.
Owned it down at Troon, and the year before at Sandwich, it would have been really wet going into it. But if you get that kind of firm, it's a very different, like Hoylake when Tiger won, when it was ash coloured and burned out, then you have any bounce and it's kicking. So they'd normally go for a tighter sole grind on the wedges, but they generally won't change the middle one. It's normally the lob wedge.
Yep. Good stuff. Brilliant.
So GT1, more of a wood-like hybrid, we should see a noticeable change. So picture flight there, that's up straight off the club face. So launch angles noticeably different. We're going to see what was 13.8 with the GT3, and I hit that pretty well, whereas the GT3 I healed. So spin 4.7, but launch angle 15.5. So it's picked up almost 2 degrees versus GT3 if you're trying to really get it up in the air. So those are the hybrid options, and miles more forgiving.
Peter plays at Tankley Common. If those of you that have been to the UK, or live in the UK and haven't played Hankley Common, it's an absolute cracker of a golf course. Fantastic sort of inner links golf course, loads of heather, even though it's not necessarily a links golf course, but it's got that vibe about very fast running fairways, and it's very open. You can get a bit of a blow through there. Green's always fast, very firm. So something more flighted for a Peter would be probably more what I would say is going to suit him.
Yeah, and for a lot of your kind of your vertical average golfers, your kind of moderate handicap golfers are going to be, you know, it's not going to be as a driving iron off the tee. You know, a lot of it's going to be, you know, getting the ball down par fives a good distance reliably, or playing into the, sort of some of the longer par four greens where actually you've got, or longer par threes where you've got to flight it and stop it. Like the 7th there is, you know, an infinity green where it's all carry, and then you've got 2 tiers and there's a load of heather behind, which is less than friendly. I and think, just forgiveness.
Yeah, I think club players, I mean, how often are club players really taking a hybrid off of a tee, really? I mean, you're hitting driver 3 woods, aren't you? So it's not really a club that you're thinking for off of the tee peg, really. No. You want something, and every golfer really, something flighted that feels, because Peter can hit it a decent distance. He's got some nice distance about him. Always want to feel like on a golf course like that you've got control at the other end, don't you? You know, quite slopey fairways in places, you know, runoffs. Last thing you want is something coming in with heat and scurrying away and sort of nestling up against the edge of the heather that can so easily happen. Kind of, you can sort of catch the edge of a green, fires it off, and now all of a sudden you've gone from hitting really quite a nice shot to something that you're going to have to dig out with your,
as you say, and if you, and reliability of carry distance out of it. You know, that's what for a lot of golfers, you know, you do the odd driving iron for someone who's got a lot of speed who just wants to keep it in play. But that's all about having a shorter shaft length, and you know, if they're hitting a 3-iron 240 yards, well, you know, that gives a bit of reliability off the tee. But for most players, that's a 3-wood or a driver. So as you see, for most courses, you're looking at this bit of the bag as something that can give you consistency, reliability as a distance fairway club, the odd par 3.
I really find, I don't know how you feel, I really find hybrids off of a tee, I'm not a massive fan off of it.
I put them on the ground. I'm not a hybrid player, but I put like my 5-wood when I put that in the bag, I don't tee it up. I put it on the ground.
I always prefer my 4-iron off of the tee over my hybrid, because it always feels like I can get it going. The hybrid, even though I sort of long to have a slightly higher ball flight, as soon as I get the hybrid out, that's going to give it more flight, I immediately feel uncomfortable because it's going to be up and wafty around rather than I like the 4-iron.
It can shape a little bit more.
That's right. Rather than off of the ground, nice club. Much prefer it over my 4-iron, you know. Interesting.
It is interesting, there is definitely elements of that. A flatter flight doesn't shape as much. Or doesn't have as much time in the air to shape. But it's horses for courses.
For sure.
Go to a 3-iron, we'll see those numbers change. 4.7 on spin will not be. You know, so down and forwards, this is more the old links style shot. I've pulled that one a bit, but you know, strong distance. So it hasn't gone up and flared up, but spins 3 sets, 1,000 revs less. Launch angles 11.7. So you can see the variety in flights and shots, that picking the right club is so important for where you play and the shot type you need.
100%. Good question there, Ian. Peter, thank you so much for that. Hopefully that answered your question and helped a few of you as well to choose a long iron or hybrid. Paul M. No, done that. Slalom Dude 68. I'm right in thinking that dynamic light is unimportant on a driver, assuming it's teed up.
It's not going. You're not going to find it affects shot shape like it does, or start line like it does with
Hello, hello.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're back.
Back.
Sorry about that.
Start that on briefly again.
Am I right in thinking dynamic lie is unimportant on a driver, assuming it's teed up?
So lie on a driver because of the lack of loft. It's not going to change shot shape particularly, like it would on a lofted iron, but you can affect strike point a little bit with it. So it is something to consider, but it's not a major, certainly for shot shape and how it gears shot shape, minimal for that.
Very good. John Burton, can mid-sized grips inhibit the release of the golf club? Yes and no. They can help or inhibit. Just depends on your grip, your golf swing, and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So it can do both. Maka09, great answer. Thank you. You're welcome. Golf Nerd 3, have you ever tried this idea in fittings for long irons, shorter length and hotter face, and weakened lofts to maintain spin and height?
Well, essentially what you're talking about there is the next club back down the set. So ultimately, if you're doing that, you're bringing it close. The hotter face can only gain so much in terms of ball speed. If you're weakening the loft and gaining spin, you're bringing the flight back towards, say if you're looking at a 4-iron, you're bringing it back towards a 5-iron flight. So you've got to be conscious of the gapping. But to get the hotter face, you often go to a jack loft in terms of the way the heads are designed. So you've then got to try and get the loft back onto it. So it's something that we're often trying to keep flight on, definitely now. But yeah, it's just making sure that you're not duplicating too close to the ball flight of the next club back in order to try and get some flight. And the next way up from that might be a hybrid versus an iron to get ball speed gain, to get this distance gain.
Very good.
Yes.
Very good.
The short answer is yes.
Yeah, very good. Well, I have a short answer.
Yeah.
Maka09, is there an optimal height that a typical 7-iron should reach? This is more based on optimal carry distances.
Depends on your ball speed. So your ball speed will determine what peak height is suitable. I mean, a lot of people talk about 90 feet, but you have to have a certain amount of ball speed to be able to achieve that height. So you're really looking at, that's why we always generally focus on where your launch angle and spin is, because that's going to determine how efficient the flight is, how much control you get at the far end. But yeah, I mean, in some respects, the higher the better, but it depends on what your ball speed is. On some players, we're trying to keep it down, some keep it up, but it's a really open-ended question. But something kind of 80 foot plus, if you have enough ball speed, is great.
Yeah, very good. Ian Linfoot, for your information, just did a YouTube about an XForgged Max iron, which looks similar to a ZX5. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Doug, hi guys.
Might only be available in the States or Japan, by the sounds of it. Probably Japan, by the sounds of it.
Okay. Hi guys. I settled for a 6 to pitching wedge in my iron fitting, but I find I need something between the 6 and 5 hybrid. Given where I play is rarely not windy, would you suggest a 5-iron or stronger lofted 6-iron?
So again, a bit depends on how much of a gap. And if you put a 5-iron in, is it going to, what you try not to achieve is too much overlap. Now, it's not to say you can't have two clubs doing the same distance, but with different flights. It might be that the 5-iron into wind or on a par 3 into wind is a great club, but then obviously in the 5 hybrid, out of a bit of a dodgy lie or downwind to get the height is a great option as well. But it just depends how much of a gap as to whether you can fill it with another club, or whether you actually just nudge the lofts on a little bit with your irons and work the gapping out to create the best balance of distances through the set. So there are kind of 2 routes you can do it.
Josh asks, question please, when you start backswing, does it go feet first or pressure in the hands first? Well, you're moving both the top half of your body and the bottom half of your body, so they should both start at the same time. There's a bit of a trend. What comes first? Do I move the grip first, or do I move my feet first? Well, you're moving, so everything's got to move together. So if you're moving the club away, your feet should be working and your grip should be working. So absolutely, both at the same time, Josh. Hope that helps. Macca, no. Stu Brister, Not got to Macca yet. Evening both. Been gifted a Mizuno 2252 iron, lucky you. Would you say match the shaft to the irons or get a graphite shaft graphite shaft in that? Cheers.
So pop in and test a few, I would say, knowing that Stu's not that far away. So I've played the same shaft in my driving iron as my irons for a long, long time, and I'm maybe thinking about going slightly lighter in it. But if I put a graphite in it, I lose the timing. So for some players, you'd build it, this sounds like a real cop-out answer, but for some players, you build it a bit more hybrid-like, because that helps them sort of develop the speed. The swing goes a bit more towards a wood swing and less kind of downward, more kind of through the ball towards target. I've always found that if I go lighter, I lose the feel of the club and lose the timing. So it is one of those, a bit of definitely maybe, but depending on the player, your strike and timing will be noticeably better with one versus the other, but I can't be certain. But we've got loads of shafts to test, so just pop in and let me know, pop in and we'll test a few out.
Macca09, Stuart's #1 tip to help with lowering the hand's grip in transition. I don't encourage that at all, so I don't have any on that, unfortunately. Other than keep your back to the target if that's what you want to do, and just pull the hands down if that's what you want to do, but I wouldn't recommend that. Go watch my broom series videos on my channel, Good Golf Coaching. You'll soon work out why I don't want to encourage you to drop your hands first. I hope that helps. Craig T. No. Gillum. Would it be beneficial to have a mixed set of ZXi 4s and 5s?
4s and 5s, there's not a huge, there's more of a jump between the 7 and the 5s, therefore a bigger gain to be had. 4s and 5s, there's a little bit of progression there. It may be that you could go 5, for example, 5 into the ZXi-U into a 4, depending on how far up the set you're going. But yeah, it's a bit of a difference. They're a bit more forgiving in the 4s. I mean, certainly it'll give you a little bit more at the top end of the set, but I've never found there to be big changes in performance between those two heads. So it might be limited gain.
Horse racing legends. No, Craig T. I think Titleist are doing fittings for the new irons this week. Are you able to talk about the new T250s and how it differs from the old T200?
I can do on the 10th. That's when we're allowed to start fitting with the product that's just coming in. That's when the embargo lifts on them. So I can talk about them. Essentially, it's not a massive progression in terms of it's a development of the tech they've used before, just refined and some slightly different structures within the head. But to all intents and purposes, it's a slight kind of shift on from the T200 with a little bit better separation and tungsten within the head and some slightly different structures within. But yeah, as of Thursday.
How long do you think is it gonna take, or how long before we see embargoes not be a thing of the golf?
I think they'll be around a long time. I just think it's the difficulty is now with they see images on tour, so the pictures of the heads are out there, and understandably everyone wants to know about them. But I get why they're there. The principle is they're there to be fair to everybody, so that someone who gets it earlier than others can't steal a march on someone else. So I get the reasoning for having them. It does. The difficult bit is the fact there's so much out there imagery-wise. I've got documents that I can't share that I've seen from some of the tech and signed NDAs and things about. So it's just a long time between those images coming out and the point where you can actually talk about them. So, but I get why they're there. They're there to create a level playing field for everyone.
But there'll be social media out there. You'll be able to put in YouTube and find someone that's got a club in their hand talking about it. How does that work?
Then they risk losing their account. So actually, there are there are images of heads, and actually you can repost any of Titleist's images that they've shared. But actually talking about the nuts and bolts of what's gone on the inside, technically we are all restricted until the 10th.
Interesting. So if a YouTube channel has repeatedly done it. How does that work from their perspective?
In principle, then Titleist should be, or whichever brand they're working with, should be looking very seriously at their relationship with them. Because if we're all tied into doing these things, quite rightly so, because I totally get the reasons for them doing it, that it's either got to be a partnership with whichever brand it is, but then equally speaking, if they can talk about it, then the rest of us can.
Sure. That's why I bring it up.
Or they've got to look seriously at the trust within that relationship.
Yeah, because it's not like if, I suppose if there's a massive lag of time between. So when did you see and hear about the product that's come out now?
So I first saw it, probably it was when I went up to TPI Woburn about 4 weeks back.
Okay.
Actually saw it. I mean, I've seen images online of it, but actually had it in hand and hit it and
Titleist talked to you about it. So
and
4
it was
weeks
a fitters event that eight, nine of us from UK were at and got sort of first look. But obviously, all knowing that this week is the time we can't talk about it.
So 4 weeks would have been the time frame, even if you'd have run off. I mean, I find this fascinating because I think it's kind of in other industries as well, of course, right? But with social media being how it is, you would have thought that if you would have run off and told everyone, it would have built hype in that product, not dampened it. So the people are tuning in tonight and say, talk about it, Simon. Well, someone in Michigan, someone in Epsom, someone in Scotland, they're all now gagging to hear about and talk about that Titleist sign. So it'd be in Titleist's interest to get you talking about it, every person that saw it a month ago. Because the reality is, in olden days, it would be prototype stuff. Can't tell you about it. Well, you wouldn't get to know about the prototype stuff anyway, because tour players might, but they are not in the business of building golf clubs. But you might be, so there would be 4 weeks that you would have to come up, knock it up in your workshop and come up with something, which would never happen anymore, right? But back in the day, it would have done. I just wonder how long they're going to keep on the bandwagon of 4 weeks, don't talk about it, instead of building the
reason being that the reps have got to get out to all the accounts. So that's part of, if you're, like we were the first ones to see it. So it's then not fair on everyone else if just because we were the first ones, just like if I couldn't have made that trip.
Not fair in terms of having
anyone else retailing it, to have the opportunity to talk about it, to build, potentially bring sales in.
Got it.
So
even though everybody is at the same time going to have the product on their side.
Yeah, but if they don't know what's gone into it,
they can't talk about it.
If one's just happens to be the lucky one to be the first one versus in the last week, you've got a 3-week lag time. Well, if that first person can talk about it, they can then potentially take sales off that account that haven't been able to talk about it because they haven't seen it yet. That's the reason why they do it, because it's not everyone sees it at that time. They've got to get around thousands of accounts.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because I assume this product would have been on their website 4 weeks ago.
No,
not on their website.
It's only on Instagram images, seeding images from tour, and so there's nothing on the website yet.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So so people tuning in and talking about it
just
tonight
know about it because they've seen it on social media.
Right. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Yeah.
Or are they on there now? Okay, So you might see them on the conforming list for USGA and things.
No, I think it's a really interesting. I think it's a really interesting conversation because I think, so many people. Everybody's a golf nerd, right? I mean, everybody. If you're tuning into this and you like your golf swings and your YouTubes and stuff, you've researched your hobby, don't you? And your Golf WRX, all the images will be on there.
Everyone's seen the pros using them, so you get the pictures of the what's in the bag. It's like Mizuno always used to launch something or get the pros into something at the Open. And then they would then start retailing in August, September, but they'd have had that month and a half of people going, oh, when are these coming out? And so it's been done forever. It's just now that the access to those images is just for everyone.
I'd be surprised if the embargoes are still there in a few years' time. It'd be interesting to see when it has
maybe in a different shape or form. I guess.
Interesting stuff. Hopefully you didn't mind me waffling on and questioning about that because I find it really fascinating, this stuff. Horse Racing Legends had a nice comment from Paul Way on his channel yesterday. Remember, he was the next great British player. Yeah, interesting. I know Paul Way quite well when I was playing a bit. A lunatic, great player. And I played a lot of golf with Steve Richardson as well. You know, they were.
He's a lovely man.
Yeah, great players, and it was really funny because Steve and Paul used to play South Region golf, and you'd play with them. You get drawn in a tin pot event, and playing for decent money, and you got a chance to play in the PGA Championship. You won the Order of Merit and all that kind of stuff. And they'd just hit shots every now and then where you go, ooh, that was a bit special. You know, just that step above everyone else, you know, and such lovely people as well. Paul's a really nice guy.
Was he 93 Ryder Cup? Or was he before that?
Was it the Belfry,
I know
wasn't he?
Steve was Kiowa.
Yeah. Yeah, Paul was Belfry, wasn't he? Yeah, on top with Sam Thomas and getting on it. Anyway, Eric Wallace. Hi, guys. Good evening, Eric. Can changing swing weight affect strike location? For example, if I'm catching my 3-wood slightly thin, can adding 3 grams or so move that strike slightly higher on the club face?
So the answer is it can do, but more through the fact that it's helping. So the weight can help to take you down to the ball. So if your swing weight's a bit light, then it can get a little bit flicky, and it just doesn't. You're not going to bottom out as consistently, and so going a bit of a heavier head could help. Just time and kind of help to pull the club down into impact slightly, help to get the low point in the right place for you. So it's sort of indirect of it changing strike point. It's more what it does to your timing and how that club drops into line for you, rather than it having an effect on, say, centre of gravity, things like that in the head.
Barney's getting closer and closer. He's trying to make the lead.
He's like, what was it used to do when you used to, at the school playground, face the fence, count, and then turn around?
Yosh, thank you for your answer. You're welcome, Yosh. When you set up an address, would you set the club flat, flush, sole, flat? Would you set the club flat, flush, sole on the ground for both driver and irons? Thanks again. No, normally it's a little bit of toe up because you get sag in the shaft and an elevated club handle. Jason Mikesell, love the channel, fellas. Thank you. I have the KBS C Taper Light 110S in my irons. My question is, what hybrid and fairway woods would complement the C Taper Lights in my irons? So
if you're 110 on the irons, fairway, you're probably going to be around the 70-ish gram mark. You're going to want a bit of balance in the tip. So I mean, the Fujikura Pro Black 70 in a stiff wouldn't be a million miles off. It's just over 70 grams. Keeps the balance point down there. If you want a slightly more stable profile, and hybrid-wise, let me think of that weight. I want kind of upper 70s. Don't want to go too heavy. Maybe the DI 75 actually quite nice shaft at that weight. Not too harsh, but stable enough on the tip, but keeps the balance down the bottom end as well. Goes 78 grams there, so not going too heavy. So I'd say that those are 2 good options.
Very good. Maka09, thanks, Stu. You're welcome. I don't want to lower them unnecessarily, but I tend to pull the hands back out towards the ball, which seems to encourage a slightly over-the-top move, which I detest. I will revisit your video. An over-the-top move is usually a symptom of a face-to-path value that is positive. Find out what is creating a positive face-to-path, because I assume you are a fader or slicer of the golf ball, so you need to fix the face-to-path value, which causes the bend to the right, and that will stop you from, in your perceived ideas, of coming over the top, because the handle needs to come forwards. It can't just come down, the handle must come forwards. But if the shaft is steepening, that's something else. A steepening shaft is a shaft that's pitching up. The grip must move forwards in a downswing. Grip must move forwards in a downswing. The shaft steepening, that's a no-no. That's what people perceive as over the top, this club head working out this way. So fix why your club shaft is steepening on the way down, because that's helping you close the club face. So if you find out what's causing you to have an open face, you'll be able to fix that steepening of the shaft. Because if you had a closed face to path at strike, and then you came over the top, your ball would pull, hook, pull, draw. And as soon as you hit that shot, invariably the shaft shallows out on the way down. That's the way it works. So you don't need to fix your over the top, you need to fix your face to path value. And a good place to start is with your grip. That's where I would go. Hopefully that's helpful.
Ripping pull.
Yes, exactly.
Horrid shot.
Exactly.
Hence the face pull of mine when he was describing it.
Yeah, not good. Golf Nerd 3, do you have your entire shaft range in wedge lengths for wedge fitting, or is it a similar range?
We don't have every single one, because there are some that just are less suitable for them. It's something that we're continually kind of looking at with different lengths and which options are the best ones to have. Some of it's down to wall space, but we have a range of some of the wedge-specific shafts, as well as some kind of popular set shafts to go from 45 grams all the way through to 135. So we do have quite a chunk of them as well, so, but not every single one.
Doug retracted his message. Druss, out of the different club types, drivers, fairways, hybrids, irons, putters, etc. I'm not sure there is any after all of that lot. Which has come along the most in tech in the last 10 years or so? Good question.
I'd have to say I think fairway woods have had the biggest progression in the last 5 years, certainly, where they've just been able to they're starting to utilise getting lighter crown, getting the weight down the sole. I think ball speed off the face has been one of the biggest improvements. Consistency low on the face has had one of the biggest improvements. So I think kind of fairway woods, I think I've seen the biggest progression in performance in the last 5 years. I mean, 10 years is a long time in equipment, and everything has come on. Drivers just been limited for 22 years now, so it's you're not going to get the same ball speed progression, but off centre they've improved a lot. But in terms of overall performance, for me, fairway woods.
Good question here from Jason. Well, not really a question, more of a statement. I'm 59 years old. A happy 60th birthday when it happens. Had my first custom fit 6 weeks ago. Over the last 5 years, my handicap has gone up from 14 to 19. I was using Mizuno MP62s, stiff. I was fitted into a Titleist T350 regular shaft, and my handicap now has gone up to 26. I'm joking. It's come down to 12.
Speedy progression. Very good.
It's come down to 12. Super. Well done, Jason. Good to hear.
It just shows, though, doesn't it? You going from a very much a player's iron head to something that is more forgiving. And we often get asked the question, can I improve by going to kind of game improving irons? Well, like Monty got to world number 2 using them.
Shovels.
So they don't stop you improving, but it's just, do they give you the right performance and the right balance of margin of error, flight, spin? If you get it right, there's your result.
Lining up the strawberries on the fruit machine. Following on the embargo chat, Ian Linfoot has Johnny Wonder bypassed the embargo on the new Callaway XForgged Max iron? Who's Johnny Wonder?
He's a guy in the States who does a load of product reviews, and he's partnered up with Callaway. So it may just be that product isn't available over here. So there are products that are just US only, or that are just Japan only. So this limited edition, there's a limited edition XForgged on the Tour Pros are using that we can get a few sets of. Although if someone does want them, we're getting very, very tight on time to be able to get them. But it's just a very limited release over here. US being over 50% of the market, they're going to get some products that we just don't have over here. So it could just be that.
Barney is getting a bit agitated now. He either thinks he's got another dinner coming, or he needs a poo. Hopefully neither.
He's going to be unlucky on both. Well, we could be unlucky on one count, and he's going to be unlucky on the other count.
Nelly and Bert, hi gents, great show again. Thank you, Nelly and Bert. What shaft is similar to KBS dollar taper, light stiff in other manufacturers? Keen to look at similar options by different manufacturers. Thank you.
The dollar taper light and the stiff is around 100 grams. But it's upper balance point. It's designed around lower spin. Tour V would be not dissimilar. It's still a KBS shaft, but wouldn't be too dissimilar at that weight. The 100, which is the sort of the reg. Oben CT 100. That's probably a slightly more responsive feel. Similar higher balance, but very stable for flight. I would then say probably into a composite, although steel fibre I-95 is a touch 4 or 5 grams lighter, but it's a more stout feel and going to keep flight and spin down. So those for balance point would probably be the closest and dead weight.
Just to let you know, he's had 8 poos today, and I kid you not, so he's all good.
It should be empty.
Sorry, we don't normally talk about doggies and poos, but sorry. Jason, I've talked about that. Then Sam I. Hi Simon, I recently had an iron shaft break at the grip of a 7-iron. Shaft is 850 GH Neo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nippon. Yep.
Yeah. I repaired it by adding a shaft extension by about 4 inches. Will that affect the swing rate, and by how much?
Yes, it depends on what extension you've used as to how much. The only thing to be very conscious of is that if it's broken 4 inches down, it's broken under the handle. If putting extension in will get the length back, but there's still a weak point on that join. So there's a lot of pressure goes through the handle. So if shafts are going to break, it's either right down the tip on the thinnest part, or it's actually in the handle where at impact, all the force is on that bit. So I would advise getting it reshafted and getting a complete shaft in it. Depending on how long you've had it, it may well be covered under warranty. But I would advise getting a complete fresh shaft, because that much of an extension, you're going to be gripping on the point of that join, and that is going to exert pressure, and it probably will fail again.
And you don't want pressure on your tip?
No. Or in the join either.
No.
Definitely not.
Yosh says, we're also Barney fans. Good to hear. Good to hear. Let's go to Doug. A bit of clarity. I love my G440 5 hybrid, but struggling to hit it off the tee. I will book a fitting to sort this and to sort out the gapping in the wedges.
Yeah. So it could be, sometimes with a hybrid off the tee, the problem is that people tee it up and try and hit up on it like they would a wood off a tee. They're not designed to be hit that way. They're designed to be hit off the ground. So that could be part of the issue of consistency off the tee. Sometimes you end up changing the delivery pattern and hitting more of a kind of, for example, a pull, whereas you don't hit a pull or a draw off the ground. That can change it. So just consider that bit as well.
Let's talk about the next couple of weeks of golf. We've got exciting golf coming up. There is something about the Open Championship in the UK, right? If you're a golfer, I think it's maybe those days of being a kid playing golf and it being on BBC at 6:30 in the morning and waking up and spending 4 days, or at least I did 4 days on the sofa watching it. It's a really great time. Wimbledon is on, if you're a tennis fan, this week as well, on the last couple of weeks. It's a real summer of
cricket,
sport.
Test series,
Absolutely. So really, really nice stuff going on. What do we, what are we looking out for over the next couple of weeks from some players? What do you feel are players that need to start to show a little bit of form, maybe going to the Ryder Cup, maybe going into the FedEx Cup? Who's on your radar to perform over these next couple of weeks?
So I think the first week, the Scottish Open at Renaissance, is at Renaissance again.
Yeah, I think so.
I think you're getting players just used to playing, using the ground a little bit more with links golf. Now again, Portrush is softer than some, so it's less important. But I think those that adjust to playing links short game, ball flight control, that'll give an insight into next week's Open. But I would be looking at, I'd want to see the likes of the Obergs. McIntyre's been playing solidly, but the likes of Ludwig, Hovland, some of those guys who would really like to be in Ryder Cup start to ramp up form now. I think seeing them, the big tournaments, I'd expect to see them kicking up there a little bit more now. Certainly for Ryder Cup importance, for sure.
I think you're going to see probably a lot out of Robert McIntyre over these next coming weeks, aren't you? I mean, he won the Scottish last year with that putt across the green. He's going to thrive on that, going back there, defending. Yeah. He's just come off the back of doing super well at the US Open. Yeah. Couldn't be higher in confidence. And I remember seeing him at the PGA Championship, having an interview, that his game felt like it was coming on. So real good momentum for him.
my pocket.
Oh, God. Yeah.
So you're saying about Rory in the Open. I think has he sorted his headspace out? I think he doesn't need a lot to get his game firing, but it's the focus and then being in a major, everything's amped up. It's his home Open, and after last time when he cocked up the first round, then went nuts in the second round.
He made 10 down the first, didn't he, last time?
8.
Got it.
But let's face it.
May as well.
And then
10.
double the last, but it's a tough place to find your game, and he's I don't know. I just don't know what we're going to see. I think I'd hope by Ryder Cup he'd be back, but then match play's a bit different. It's not quite that same format, quite obviously.
And he does love the Ryder Cup.
Yeah. So, and there's another couple of months on just to kind of get everything out of the system and you kind of work out what's next for you. And I think that's kind of where this may be that one, being back at home in Portrush, but I don't know.
I think I never saw it as being he's going to win and then playing with the house money. I think that was a romantic way of. We're going to wrap it up tonight. Audio is playing up. We're going to get our tech guy in between this week and next week, so it'll be fixed, guaranteed for you next week. So thank you so much for bearing with us. Have a great week. We're going to be here next Monday talking all things Open. It'll be exciting. We're going to play a few holes next week as well and get ready for the Open Championship at Royal Portrush. As usual, thanks to Simon, yourselves, James on the discs. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great week and bye for now.